Blaming others for your problems is funny harm. In my 3 decades as a professor and clinical psychologist, I've learned nothing. Why? Because I'm Jordan Peterson. I was going to have a guest speaker, but the person I had invited in died, so that didn't work out. No. Let go of my lip, kill the infants. Why are you so obsessed by it? If you have sex with women, that's nasty. Beat yourself on the back of the head with a stick 24 hours a day. That's your job. Burn that into your brain. It's like the rats. The little rat is little and small, this big. At the same time, the big rat is like this, like a total barbarian. He's just a complete fraud. The little rat is just trying to figure out a fast way to make cars. Why would the little rat care? Let the little rat cook. It's low resolution. It's low resolution. There are 2 fundamental attitudes. Those with the first attitude set their own house on fire. Those with the second burn. Imagine a couple on the brink of divorce. It's her fault. She's doomed. That's the stupidest theory I've ever heard. Your kids will torture you to death, and they're right to do it, too. Yes?
So you say that,
Wow, that's so interesting. Hit the road, buddy. You're just supposed to sit down and shut up. I might kill you. I just smoked a blunt, I think. Here's what I do. Kicking, biting, fighting, and property theft. Why is that? I enjoy it. Kill other people. Steal what other people have. What are you going to do next? What do you think about me? Where are you going? I'm no threat. I'm hunched over. Kill me. This is from China. Look at them. Look at them. This is forever. All women are disgusting. There's lots of them. I don't know how many of them. I've had enough of women. I don't want to have anything to do with women. Why? Well, that doesn't require much explanation. Your girlfriend is like your mother. I'm often accused of being gay. Well, yes, obviously. Meow. Can I get you to stand up? Turn around. Okay. I had a threesome with adult men on the street because I thought it would be funny, but they made me bust a emotional load, so to speak. So now I like bears. I'm gonna do it. Let's go kill some snakes. Hitler did this beautifully. The Nazis were unbelievably great, Nazi-like. Like, what the hell is that? Look at me, I'm Hitler. I've watched 100 movies, but I don't understand up. Okay, up. From where? Why up? Try this. Stop being alive. Stop today. Don't waste time watching this video. Right now. Get to work late. Start interrupting people. Make people good enough.
He walked out in the gray light and stood, and he saw for a brief moment the absolute truth of the world. The cold, relentless circling of the intestate earth. Darkness implacable. The blind dogs of the sun in their running. The crushing black vacuum of the universe. And somewhere 200 animals trembling like ground foxes in their cover. Borrowed time and borrowed world and borrowed eyes with which to sorrow it.
And lo, for the earth was empty of form, and void, and darkness was all over the face of the deep, and we said, look at that fucker dance.
And welcome to Heat Death of the Universe, a podcast scouring the lonely heart's columns, seeking an intrepid scientist to perform an ethically dubious brain transplant, willing to relocate via steamship, dirigible, roller skate-based rickshaw, and a variety of unsanctioned submergibles. It is 10:40. I always do this every time where I can't see the fucking time and I have to move away from the mic. It is 10:44 a.m. March 14th, KST, year of our Lord, Godwin Baxter, anointed by the Blessed Sister Robocop Benedetta 2024. This is Josh's voice announcing that this is Josh's voice announcing the passing of the mic torch to Tim. More Heidecker, less McGraw, Buechner. Hello, Tim.
Hello, Josh. Welcome. Thank you for welcoming me back to the only podcast that's willing to ask the question. Robert her? Get back to me when it's Robert them. The future is non-binary. How you doing tonight, Josh?
I'm doing good. You're always keeping me guessing with these intros, so to speak.
Yeah. You're enjoying the new theme, the name puns so far?
I like it.
All right.
I would almost not even mind if we just did a variation on the Gessen, just going through the whole Gessen family.
I would continue that on, but you can only go so far.
Yeah, that's probably. Yeah, when you're doing like a once a week thing, people are maybe not gonna draw the through line. But no, I like that Gessen. But wait, who did you say? I don't know if I know who that is.
Robert Herr? You don't know?
Yeah, who's that?
Robert Herr is he's a big deal right now. He's the number one major domo bugaboo of the week. He was the special
HUR.
Yeah, the special
sure
counsel or whatever investigator about Joe Biden doing he did the Trump. When Joe Biden did the Trump and it was they were doing the whataboutism, he was the guy. And just more details have come out on that and the actual documents. Very interesting stuff as people break it down. Did you hear much about like the stuff that came out this past week with that?
Maybe not. I mean, I thought I know.
The big thing that mattered was, the thing about like they tried to say like it came across like they were implying that Biden mixed up and forgot when his son died, Jack, and all that.
Yeah.
That like when the actual transcript came out, it was like the idea of saying that he mixed up when Bo died is very much taking like an out of context reading of it, because that's not at all what was going on. It was like a conversation. They were talking about a specific time period. He was trying to remember the context of when something was happening. They're like, we were moving boxes from XYZ around this time period, and he said, that would either have been when my son was deployed or while he was actively dying, basically. So he was just saying that time period, that chunk of time period could have been whatever. He was like referencing. So they were saying like, when did you move these boxes from here to here? Oh, it could have been within this time period, which would have been when Bo was deployed or when Bo was dying. He was using that as a reference point for a chunk of time. He was not saying, that could have happened when he was alive or when he was dead. I'm not sure. It was like the opposite. Then he actually said the exact date that Bo died. I don't know it off the top of my head, but Joe Biden sure as shit did. Because in the quote, he even says, it was like May 15th. He says, May 15th. Jack, that's when he died. And then everyone's like, 2015. And he's like, everyone else started saying 2015. Like, because he just said the day. Then they all said, that happened, May 15, 2015. And blah, blah. Anyways, basically, all that's come out is Robert Herr was appointed by Trump to begin with as a judge. He ended up in a situation where he was the one who was questioning Biden. And then the documents that he leaked and the way that he framed them sounded bad and negative towards Biden. So it's just basically coming out that Robert Herr was a partisan hack. And that's the only reason why any of this stuff sounded bad towards Biden is probably the case. Also, clearly.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think people. I mean, I knew that like this guy was definitely like partisan, like like a loyal member to the party, to the GOP,
right?
But yeah, I'm seeing here now. Adam Schitt was grilling Robert Herr on this. I mean, I don't know. I didn't read the transcripts. The thing about Bo, okay. but I saw direct quotes, and I mean, I guess they could be somehow put into a context to make Biden look less senile.
Well, okay, but the most damning thing.
Go
ahead.
He was asking them to remind him, like, was I vice president then? I think that was like the word for word quote. Which anyway, whatever. I mean,
we've litigated this a bit, but yeah, there's just more information out about it that I think.
I was going to say not
context.
even that we talked about it too much, but just that, like, okay, is this a big win for Biden fans? Not really, considering the the mountain of what I would say is very undeniable evidence that this man's brain don't work so good anymore.
I mean, I agree with you in the big picture, but I do think that
till he draws a fucking clock, I will not back down.
He's gonna draw a picture like Farscape, the guy with the pyramid head, and all the time say rape. That's the only clock that Biden's gonna draw. Is that Farscape? Is that Roomscape? I don't even know. I don't play video games.
I don't know. I don't even know, but I get the joke enough.
I'll put the meme in the Discord if people want to see it. You'll know what I'm talking about if you know Vitcha games. No, but you know what it is? I agree with you in the big picture, right? Macro. But in the micro, in the moment, it actually is kind of a win for Biden, because not only does this like refute a lot of the stuff that people were running with, it also it does call into question, because the biggest smoking gun from that report was a direct quote from Robert Hur. I think if you can frame the whole thing as Robert Hur being a partisan kind of attack dog that was intentionally trying to make Biden look bad, and then the only like I said, the biggest smoking gun from the report was his direct quotes, and even then. We talked about it at the time where I kind of parsed it to say he's saying that Biden comes across that way. He's not necessarily saying irrefutable that Biden is that way, right? The whole to a jury, he would come across like a well-meaning old man who's forgetful, right? So you go, okay, that's coming directly from a partisan attack dog who's intentionally trying to make Biden look bad. And the reason why it is a win is because it's paired with Jacked Up Joe, State of the Union, both things happening at the same time, does kind of, even though I can agree with you that Biden is old, I think we can both agree there that Biden is definitely old. I would say that to the public, these two stories back to back, for a low information voter, the person who's barely paying attention, they go, yeah, you know what, that thing's all bullshit. And then at the State of the Union, he looks so good. Fox News is calling him Jacked Up Joe and saying, oh, he must be on drugs or something because he's talking too fast. No human being can speak that quickly. And you know what I mean? He's so rapid fire with his words. It's impossible. He definitely has to be high on drugs. There's no way any human being in their just a normal state could talk that fast, right? Those two things combined make you go, yeah, maybe he's not that old. Maybe he's not that out of it, right? So that's why it is a win. It's a win for Biden. It really is.
Yeah, I guess so. I just think it's pathetic that that's a win, and
sure.
And the key word there is a low information voter, and that's like a really nice euphemism for total fucking moron.
Moron, yeah.
In my mind, I mean, not completely. I understand. I don't know. I mean, we have regular fucking jobs, and I can see enough of the news to know that
you don't need to see the news to know that Biden is old. You just need a calendar, Jack.
But not even just old, but he has I mean, okay, if you're gonna be a pod save Ezra Klein type, just loyal to the bitter end, a fucking jihadist for genocide Joe, you will sacrifice, put your body on the line to make sure Joe Biden becomes president again, and then you can stand around and laugh and point and laugh at Mitch McConnell when Mitch McConnell zones out publicly, but you can't acknowledge that Joe Biden does the same shit once a week at least. It's just fucking stupid. I mean, he has these moments where he just mid-sentence, he just has no idea where he is, what he's doing. But all the same people that will I should actually even maybe take Ezra Klein's name out my mouth there, because even that guy is wrote up some long article, which was like, Joe Biden is a god amongst men, but he's too old for this, and we should find somebody new because I'm so afraid of Trump winning. But anyway, this does actually lead us into the first thing I wanted to talk about in a way. I feel like I was going to say something else, but it's probably just more.
Might have been something good.
Yelling about Joe Biden. Well, it's a sort of a good news, bad news situation. So there's this guy, Daniel Hale. He's been a focus on the podcast over the years. I did look at the exact episodes that we spent talking about him in case anyone wants to go back and listen to those, because I don't want to get into like the whole story leading up to him being imprisoned very unfairly, but I think it was episode 20. Hang on, I've got it here. Yeah, 20, 61, 88, and probably some other ones too, but those are the ones that were like explicitly about this guy who was he joined the Air Force out of like complete poverty reasons. There's a really good article that I'll link in the notes, kind of detailing his background and how he came to end up working for the U.S. military, and then ultimately moved to the NSA and like this drone program. And basically, he was the guy who leaked a lot of information. He took some papers. The evilest crime you can do, unless you're a sitting president, of course, then it's okay, as long as you may come off sympathetic. So why would we bother prosecuting someone for a crime when people might think that they're just a nice old man? Meanwhile, we'll throw like, a 30-year-old guy into jail for, I think he was facing up to 50 years. But anyway, also Jason kind of knew this guy back in Tennessee back in the day. They had like kind of mutual friends, and I think took some karate classes together. I believe one of the ways Jason described Daniel Hale was, that guy possibly kicked me in the face once when we were sparring. But so he should be more widely known. But I guess by now, finally, now that he's actually done prison time, there's at least like a lot of like decent reporting out there about him. But it's not mainstream. He's no Julian Assange or Edward Snowden, or even like a reality winner. Maybe more on the level of like reality winner in terms of people getting locked up for exposing.
What level? Level do you mean? Like fame or
fame? Just being known by like the general public.
You got to give reality winner pretty top level billing there. I mean, she's being portrayed in a film by Sydney Sweeney. That's pretty top of the. You know what I mean? That's pretty.
Oh, is that who's playing her?
Yeah, she did play her in a movie.
So, it's already been done.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. So,
okay.
Yeah, so that's that's when you have an A-list celebrity playing you in a movie, you're probably pretty well known.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I guess I'm just saying that since we started talking about Daniel Hale on the podcast, it seems like more people know who he is all I'm saying.
Sure.
Mr. Snowden himself has like, taken to the tweets and said, that this guy should be considered a hero, and that it's completely unjust how he's been treated by the government. But the good news part is that he's recently finally gotten out of prison a little bit earlier than his sentence, but he's going to be on house arrest, I think, until July this year. But it's good news, and he's recently written a short article in Al Jazeera. Of course, the traitorous Al Jazeera, the pro-Hamas rag Al Jazeera, about his time And I just want to go through some of it, not necessarily have to read all of it, but I think he also wrote a really interesting, quite long, like right before he was about to be sentenced. He wrote this long thing to like the judge who's going to sentence him. And one of the several things I like about this guy is that he, like, the reason he didn't even come forth right away with like this. Or the reason he didn't really even try to defend himself was because basically he basically has PTSD from like knowing what he took part in this drone program where, you know, he wasn't the guy pressing the little joystick buttons or whatever, but like he was doing like sort of intelligence analysis on like people that would be targeted. And anyway, the one article I talked about that goes into his background talks about how basically he's just like punishing himself for this. And I want to make just a distinction too between like, I'm not going to take the time to look it up now, but there's this word in Hebrew that gets used a lot in Israel about when like soldiers get back from the battlefield or whatever, the killing grounds, the cage where they drop bombs on people, and the phrase translates to like shooting while crying. Which, yes, let's make a sex joke there. But
I usually don't start crying until after I shoot,
like,
personally, but you know, that's just me.
You got to work up to simultaneous because it's, you know, tears are a lubricant. Jesus.
You said it, not me.
I know. I'm saying Jesus to myself. But it also is like a thing we see in so much U.S. media where it's like, oh, the killing man feels bad now, and all of the sort of empathy is directed at the person who did all the murdering.
Right.
And it's like, oh, but now they feel bad about it. It's like a really common, like, sort of like, you know, after the fact or you know, whatever, like just lots of like war movies try to take this stance or whatever. But this guy's not doing that. And like, that's the reason why he, even in his like letter to this judge, he's saying that, you know, he's like, I'm a traitor, and I'm like very proudly a traitor. Like, he doesn't even like the term whistleblower. Like, he doesn't want to be called a whistleblower or a hero or any of that shit. And he doesn't act like it. Like, that's the thing is, he probably kind of could have cashed in more on this if he really wanted to. But anyway, so he wrote this article titled, "I was punished under the Espionage Act. Why wasn't Joe Biden? Just like me, Biden kept classified information outside a secure facility and shared that information with the press to express concern over U.S. policy. But the prosecutors treated us very differently. In February, I was released from federal prison, having served 33 months for a violation of the Espionage Act after I disclosed classified information detailing what I saw as the high moral cost of America's drone assassination program. Before having time to adjust to the world beyond concrete walls, I was struck by the news of Special Counsel Robert Hur, theirs
Robert
report, wherein he lays out the reasons he decided not to charge President Joe Biden for alleged violations of the same law. I'm always encouraged to hear whenever the Justice Department decides against using the Espionage Act. By the time the ink of the 1917 law had dried, it was already being used to silence voices of dissent across the country. Thousands were rounded up and summarily convicted for their opposition to America's involvement in the bloodiest conflict in human history at the time. I'll add, I believe Eugene Debs was one of those people protesting our involvement in World War I. While some of the worst aspects of the law have since been amended, the Espionage Act remains the premier criminal statute for prosecuting government sources who rely upon the press to expose secret government abuses to the public. The decision by Justice Department officials to go government whistleblowers with the Espionage Act has been a part of a concerted effort to signal clearly that the next person who dares speak with a reporter could find themselves facing decades of incarceration. And I think like that's the main takeaway from like any time. I mean, what like the insane torture that is the way Julian Assange has been treated for over a decade now is basically that. Like, this obviously has nothing to do with justice. Like, if they were really applying these laws like evenly in any way at all, The Intercept, Jeremy Scahill would be in jail as well. Why isn't he? I don't know. Maybe because he's just a higher profile figure.
Right.
That would maybe like, why don't the people that published the things that Julian Assange published, people who work for the New York Times or the Washington Post, why aren't they rotting away in a jail cell in England right now? I think the question answers itself, but
right.
It's obviously not even really stopping things, but like, I mean, it probably has. Who knows? I mean, we're never going to really know, like, unless someone comes out and says, like, I thought about taking some documents and leaking them to the press, but I got too scared and didn't. But yeah, it's an overt threat, I think, to anyone considering doing similar things. He goes on to say, after reading Special Counsel Herr's report, I was curious to find the similarities between my case and that of the investigation into the president. According to the report, President Biden kept classified information outside of a secure facility at his home and office, as did I. The president later spoke with a reporter about the classified information he retained, again, as did I. The other thing here is that, well, okay, he goes on to say it next. Both President Biden and I expressed to our respective reporters the concerns we had about official U.S. policy. His about the failed 2009 surge in Afghanistan, parentheses, as vice president. And mine about the consequences of that policy. So why the decision to prosecute one and not the other? According to her, the president would have been seen as too sympathetic to convince a jury of fault in his case. That her believes Biden is a well-meaning individual who did not intend any harm by his actions is a good reason for not charging him. I don't agree with that, but anyway. I get what Daniel's saying here, that like there should be protections for whistleblowing, which like theoretically there are and there are supposed to be. And I guess also maybe to be sort of fair, Daniel Hale didn't actually get arrested or charged until Trump came into office. The Obama administration basically declined to press charges against him for some reason, because the Obama administration had no problem with throwing whistleblowers in jail before, Chelsea Manning being maybe the most famous one. Wait, was Reality Winner under Trump or Obama? I can't remember.
It was Trump.
I don't know. Yeah, that's right.
I watched because I watched the biopic. I know that. Yeah.
Okay, now contrast that with what the government said about me at my sentencing, accusing me of endangering the public and likening me to a heroin dealer. I was portrayed not as someone with good intentions, but as someone who tried to, quote, ingratiate himself with reporters for the sake of notoriety, as opposed to acting in the public interest. Herr goes on to cleverly dodge the matter of intent where the Espionage Act is concerned. Counterintuitively, the law does not require proof of intent to harm the United States. Only evidence that the unauthorized possessor of national defense information knowingly retains it and willfully communicates it to someone not entitled to receive it. So that was like a huge thing about this as well, and about like why the Espionage Act has gotta go. I mean, it's just like, again, like so many examples, you know, the U.S. loves to call itself the beacon of freedom or whatever, and like anytime a journalist gets locked up in China, which, you know, I don't I don't defend either. Hey, look at these monsters. They don't believe in free speech. And it's like, we have something on the books that very clearly says that a person can't even defend themselves in court. But like that part of the Espionage Act is like, yeah, it doesn't matter what your intentions are. Like if you could prove prove that leaking the information like saved someone or many people's lives, it's immaterial, it's irrelevant, it can't be brought into evidence. I wonder why.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Prosecutors usually prove this by pointing to the stacks of non-disclosure agreements every clearance holder must sign in order to remain employed. Being elected, Biden might never have had to sign such an agreement. But, his degree of sympathy aside, it would not have taken much to prove that he knew the disclosure of classified information to be unlawful. But he's just a forgetful old man. He doesn't know.
How could he know?
Nevertheless, Biden is let off the hook because he did not mean any harm. In contrast, the government's pretrial motions in my case argued that I not be allowed to present evidence of what it called my, quote, good motives. Afraid my motives might make me appear too sympathetic to a jury, I, like every other whistleblower before me, was rendered effectively defenseless because of a legal technicality in the way the law is written. Given no other choice, I was forced to plead out to avert a costly, unwinnable trial. All told, the guilt I professed for willfully delivering national defense information to a journalist was nothing compared to the immense shame I felt for willfully participating in the drone program. In 2021, scarcely weeks after I was sentenced to federal prison, Zamari Ahmadi and 9 members of his family, most of them small children, were the victims of a mistaken U.S. drone strike. The Pentagon called it a, quote, righteous strike, before the truth forced them to quietly back away and conduct an internal investigation in which it found no one to be at fault for the innocent lives that were taken. I think that must have been during the Biden's one of the things people, Biden's key triumphant moment in his presidency of getting troops out of Afghanistan with no negative side effects for the people in Afghanistan whatsoever. To this day, I'm the only person to have worked in the drone program to have been held responsible, not for my role in it, but for my effort to reveal the deadly truth of it to the public with the help of a journalist. I'm sincerely glad President Biden was able to receive what so many others in the crosshairs of the Espionage Act have been denied, the benefit of the doubt. But if Joe Biden truly wishes to convey the kind of ideals that helped secure his presidency in the first place, he would utilize his power as president to pardon the whistleblowers and cease the global war on terror policy of, quote, targeted killing. And that's the article.
All right. I don't know.
I mean, obviously, he's using a lot of rhetorical questions and stuff in here. He's not a naive person. I kind of actually like the tactic he's using here of I'm so glad Biden could get treated nicely over doing technically the exact same shit that I was thrown in prison for.
Right. It's doing that. I'm so happy that we've all changed our, where everyone has come around and we all see that what I did wasn't that bad. It's doing that kind of thing, which I get it, but yeah.
And I don't know. Again, I'm happy he got out, obviously, and I don't know. It's possible. I'm not making any big promises, but possible to try to get him on the podcast at some point, especially since Jason is his mutual
best friends.
Pals, best friends. I think he wants me to maybe go out of my way to say that they were not best friends, but they ran
just
in the same crowd.
Friends.
They knew each other.
Sure.
They went to the same parties.
They held hands.
Sometimes they did karate fight each other
one time.
Which that's pretty intimate. So
sure, yeah. You really gotta get in there. So there's a lot of folds and all that. Anyways, we don't need to get into details tonight right now about everything that entails, especially because neither of us were there for the for the kung fu fight, as it were.
Actually, I'm remembering now the details of it.
That you were there?
No.
Oh, okay.
But that Jason mentioned it on the podcast once, and it was like, he said that the lessons were free.
Okay.
And that they were hosted by this like kind of like shell-shocked Vietnam vet who was also incredibly religious. Christianly so.
Christian style religious, okay.
Basically, the payment for the lessons was you had to sit and listen to him preach.
I was going to say, I was not liking where that was going, but it did not go as bad as I was predicting. So I was expecting it to be a lot worse.
I mean, again, I wasn't there.
Sure.
So speaking of people in the opposite vein of a Daniel Hale, people with zero integrity.
Oh, sure, yeah.
A doctor, God, people that aren't medical doctors.
Oh yeah,
that call themselves doctor are fuck off.
Yep, have to agree.
Dr. Jordan B. Peterson,
JP,
somewhat recently in the quote unquote news.
Sure.
Having another, I don't know, break with reality, or maybe he's just looking for those clicks. There's such a fine line between the two, and I guess it can be both things as well, right? But he's having a feud with a certain crimson-shaded Muppet puppet. I guess he's not technically a Muppet. I think this is something Jordan Peterson even goes off on. He was not one of the genius Jim Henson's creations.
Okay, but I think he was.
He was. Jordan Peterson, again, is wrong about fucking everything.
I don't think he said that. But this is something that we've talked about, or maybe we did not talk about it. I just saw a TikTok about it, where they explain this, where it's like Muppets versus the Muppets. Anyways,
okay.
Elmo is technically a Muppet, but he's not one of the Muppets. Anyways.
Sure.
But somehow he is a Muppet.
And also he was designed by Jim Henson, I found out while looking into this dumb shit.
Right, but I don't think Peterson said that. He just said that the puppets that were designed... Okay, I guess he didn't exactly say that Elmo wasn't designed by him, but I guess you could infer that he was implying that he wasn't. Anyways. This is pointless. I'm sorry.
Beat this exciting dead horse further into the ground. I thought that in that little interview clip with his daughter, with Michaela Peterson, whatever her name is.
Michaela. Her first name is Michaela.
Say her name.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like Russian E, and he's kind of a Mr. Anti-Russia kind of guy.
But he also loves it.
I
mean, that's where he went to get...
I guess...
that's where he went to be put into a coma to get off benzo.
I guess he's less of an anti-Russia and more of an anti-communist guy. Yeah, God damn, I guess kind of got to give him credit for that one. He's not one of these people that's so stupid that they just act like Russia is still communist when it's not. Fuck.
I'm not sure. I don't pay enough attention to this asshole.
Sure.
I would not be shocked if he was like, actually, I don't know. Like, because like the whole like Ukraine Russia conflict is so such a partisan thing for the most part in America. He probably just kind of kept his mouth shut about it, I'm guessing.
Right.
But I don't imagine he has kind words for Putin, let's say. But
sure.
Anyway, Jordan Peterson has been just like going off about Elmo.
Having a normal one.
And Elmo is now like the new like totem, the new avatar of like all things soy and degraded about our Western civilizational values or whatever horse shit this guy likes to talk about. And I don't know. What did he say? Want to take us through some of these tweets?
Oh, geez. Do you have them all on the thing? Yeah, you do. Okay. There was one more I think that you're missing. Let me see if I can.
There are more. I'll try to.
No, you don't have to. I'll pull up this. It's just the one more that I know of that I have saved, beyond the ones that you've already have posted here. Anyways, so I don't know if this is the first one, but it was the first one that came across my feed or whatever. Let me just double check here. I guess technically, yeah. So, anyways, technically, the first one would actually be this one, where he's replying to or he's quote tweeting President Joe Biden, and he's saying, "I can rightly believe that those who are writing tweets for poor old Joe Biden are admirers of the bloody, horrible, whiny puppet. Elmo would definitely vote the Democrats." And this was like at the end of January that he tweeted that one. So yeah, obviously, this has been percolating for a minute because he circles back here toward the end of March. Or no, actually, this is early March, where he's replying, quote tweeting Elmo, who's just like tweeting out support for people who are engaging in Ramadan. But he has decided that if you're engaging in Ramadan, or if you're just supporting people who engage in Ramadan, that you're part of Hamas, I guess, because he calls Elmo Hamas, or he says Hamas will never win over the righteous keepers of the West. Up yours, comma, scum. So calling Elmo scum there. For supporting people who are engaging in Ramadan, which I do not think that everyone who does Ramadan is in Hamas. Am I wrong there, Josh? Is that a rule? If you support Ramadan, do you have to be in Hamas?
Not all Ramadan celebrants are Hamas, but all Hamas are celebrators.
Okay, you know what? I'll take it. Yeah.
I mean, he's just a complete moron.
Right.
Like, people think this guy is like some slick academic. Like, he can, I guess, string together sentences sometimes with academic words. But if you look at even his tweets, and this is just like another thing that I've only ever seen conservative weirdos like him, and who's the other one we talked about the other day? Michael Rappaport tweets the same way, where they look like they're trying to write like free-form poetry.
Yeah.
Because they just they hit the return key and like do another line in the middle of a sentence that, where it makes no sense.
Yes. He does like doing that.
And that in itself fucking bothers me for some reason.
Right. I can't believe it.
But it's like, I mean, all I can imagine is he thinks it makes his words sound more profound somehow, because you have to do them in like a slam poetry like cadence. Like, I'm looking at one right now that I'm just scrolling through his Twitter, but like this has something to do with Elmo, as far as I can tell, but
not yet.
It's just his big hobby horse lately, it seems to be, and like I think has been for a while, but how people supporting the idea of, I don't know, giving like a sort of why can't I think of the right word, gender affirming care of any sort to non-adults, although he obviously Muppets, but he focuses on the children, like Mrs. Lovejoy on The Simpsons might say, what about the children?
Will anyone think of the children?
But then in this one here, he goes, adult or not, like, we shouldn't, and he always used the word butcher, surgical butchers. But here he goes, how about no one ever, adult or not? We've already seen where this leads, and there is no reason to further enable the surgical butchers. Enough. Back under the rocks, you sick bastards.
Okay, all right.
But in that interview with his daughter, it's just like a clip, it's like a 20-second clip or something. But I think she's reading him questions like from fans or I don't even know what. But she's just like, "What's your problem with Elmo?" And he doesn't say anything about like, oh, it represents like this strain of evil SJ dubism or whatever. He just goes, oh, he's a little dandy fop piece of shit. And then he goes on about like Jim Henson being a genius.
Not even just that. Okay, go ahead.
Well, and Jim Henson must have been high out of his mind when he made his puppet creations.
That's the thing that gets me. It's like Jim Henson must have smoked mad weed, man. Like, who fucking cares?
But then he goes on to say also, Jordan Peterson says, "Oh, when we were teenagers, we would get high and watch Sesame Street." It's like, what are you trying to say? Like, that's what I'm saying about, like, he's just stupid. Like, he can't. He's almost got the Biden disease now. Like the question was, what's your problem with Elmo? And he ends up talking about how he used to get high with his friends when he was a teenager and watch Sesame Street, and never really answers the question.
Yeah.
But what I found even more, like, and the thing is, though, this isn't what kicked off his obsession with Elmo, but it just like happened to come up after his obsession had started, from what I can tell, if I'm following the timeline right. And okay, yeah, I got it here. Oh no, this was actually years ago. So maybe this is the reason then.
Okay.
It says just another reason why your children should never be allowed to watch or even know about Elmo.
Have to agree. Parents do not, I'm doing clap, clap, clap. Do not let your kids know about Elmo. Jesus Christ.
It's a link to an article in the New York Post, which was weirdly called Boy Oh Boy.
Of course, yes.
That's Elmo, Take Two. And apparently the longtime puppeteer and voice of Elmo got into some basically accusations of trolling for sex with underage boys.
Ooh, okay.
It's not great.
I don't love it. It wouldn't be on the top of my list of things to do.
It's not great. It is also accusations.
Sure.
You know, I don't know how this ultimately turned out, but let's just say he raped 10 million boys. Okay, monster, absolute monster.
Sure.
How does this connect to Elmo being the problem with all of Western culture?
Elmo, I'm not sure I quite follow, but you know, maybe I'm willing to hear him out. Does he expound on anything there, or that's kind of just it?
No, the only thing Jordan Peterson has to say about it is just don't ever let your kids know about Elmo, because this puppeteer is an accused.
Right.
I mean, look, I'm not saying. I mean, it is actually no. It's objectively better to have only trolled for deviant sex than to have actually done it.
Sure.
I would say
I'll give it to you. Yeah.
I mean, look, it's splitting hairs a little bit, but like, wouldn't you say? I mean, like,
yes.
I'm
not going to argue with you about that. Fine.
So one thing to have an urge to do something bad and damaging, and then it would be like, I'm sure Jordan Peterson has thought about killing his enemies.
Right.
But I'm not going to say that means he's a murderer. Anyway,
fair.
This sounds too much like I'm defending pederasty.
Right.
My point is just that he's a
good guy.
He's
a good guy.
He's weird. Jordan Peterson's a great man.
We all like him. We love him.
But I'll also say, if we want to get real conspiratorial with it, the very first post it appears to be that he ever made with the word Elmo in it is a picture of him sitting at the bar at the St. Elmo's Steakhouse in Indianapolis before one of his big, exciting lecture shows.
Right.
And yeah, what is that? What's that all about? Is this like Comet Ping Pong Pizza Parlor, but for Jordan Peterson's?
Yeah, it could be a Jordan Peterson.
He's into Elmo breath play, is what I'm trying to say.
I actually have to agree.
It's a clear jump from A to B.
I honestly have to agree with that. That he's doing some. I think we all can agree he's doing something bad, right? No one is.
Yeah. And I guess just on the general topic of JBP. This is like the most time I've ever spent looking at. I mean, probably this is maybe the only time I've spent looking at his Twitter account. But man, is it funny?
He is Go ahead.
Unintentionally funny,
incredibly stupid, and yeah, it's very fun to see how dumb he is. Because
his most recent like project seems to be he's on like a speaking tour, but the speaking tour is called "We Who Wrestle with God." Period.
Okay.
It's another formatting issue that I think only dumbasses do, is when they put a period in a title.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. He is very like, he has his own sort of like dumbass new agey spin on like Christianity, the Judeo-Christian Western values, supremacy of everything type shit, and it's completely incoherent, you know. Even I was gonna say, like, even some of the people, like, you know, intellectual dark web people are like, this guy's a little too much,
right?
Like, this guy doesn't know how to like argue for anything. Like, he's at like a fourth grader's level of debate, essentially.
Perfect.
I heard that his debate with Zizek was really funny.
Yeah,
and he got just destroyed.
It was definitely pretty funny. I mean, it's hard to even say that he got destroyed, because it's hard to even really.
I heard Zizek was actually kind of like giving him the benefit of the doubt and like trying to almost help him out.
Yes, it ends up not being a debate, I would say, is like the reason why it's hard for me to say that he got destroyed. Even beyond just like, like the fact that Zizek was very nice to him and gave him like a lot of rope, and was like very, very like, it devolves into a point where it's not a debate because Jordan Peterson was just absolutely not prepared for a debate, I guess would be the...
He couldn't bother to like give a quick like once over of the wiki page for Marxism before he debated, you know, an expert on Marxism.
Not even that. Like, I mean, that's definitely, I would say I'd give him the benefit of the doubt that he did go that far, but that what it really becomes is like, he was ready to debate just against the basic concept of Marxism, and like Zizek was just like very willing to step up to the plate and be like, that's fine, I don't embrace Marxism, right? And to basically say like, my point is not pro-Marxism, my point is pro-socialism, right? And so like, that's where he like completely just falls apart, because what Jordan Peterson does is then just try to refute the concepts of Marxism, and even just the concept of supporting Marx, right? So he's basically trying to do like an attack of Marxism and an attack on Marx as a person, and then Zizek is like, sure, fine, whatever, but I'm talking about socialism, and that can mean a whole bunch of different things, and Peterson was not prepared at all to have a conversation about the bigger picture of just like socialism. So that was kind of that was where the disconnect happened, is where I say like, you can't even call it a debate, because then it's just like everything that he has to say, Zizek has no rebuttal or refute, because he's just like, sure, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Like, you're just bringing up, again, like you said, Wikipedia Marxism. That's all you're talking about, and that's not what I'm here to debate.
I heard a debate between him and Sam Harris once that was one of the most, like, it made me want to just like scratch my ears off my head. It was so bad because it was like, I mean, I think the debate was essentially about like, is there like any I don't even know. It was basically, they were just like kind of generally debating religion, and Peterson, like, they couldn't get past like step one, which was like agreeing that like on basically like things can be true or not. It just turned into one of those kind of conversations where Jordan Peterson just kept Kermit the Frog voicing like the same, like, yes, but how do we know that science could ever, and like, but, so that was a bad one. And then maybe is my final thing that I have to say about Jordan Peterson at all, on at least for today. I found a subreddit called Enough Peterson Spam.
Nice.
And, someone posted here saying that the dumbest thing they ever heard Jordan Peterson say was that people having a magical experience and quitting smoking after taking magic mushrooms is evidence of the supernatural.
That's true.
What do you think is the dumbest thing he has ever said? And then, of course, the comments just pile up below.
Right.
But one of them I had heard before was this one. He claimed ancient people knew the structure of DNA because of depictions of snakes fucking.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. That is correct.
And then promptly mixed up the rod of Asclepius. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Sure, yeah.
And then he also claimed that Gödel's incompleteness theorem was a proof of God as well, which is insane.
I don't quite follow, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, Gödel's incompleteness theorem is something I tried to understand in college, and it is very confusing. It's very mathematical style philosophy, very like formal logic, but it's essentially, I'm probably not even doing it justice, but it's basically like we can never really kind of account for anything within a system of information.
Okay.
It's not a happy conclusion that it comes to. It's definitely not one that says, oh, a deity must exist.
Right.
Like,
okay.
Especially even if you just look at like the guy who, like, Kurt Gödel, who like came up with this idea. He was definitely not a religious man, and who also went crazy and starved himself to death because he thought everyone was trying to poison him. But, yeah, I guess it's probably Kurt Gödel, much more interesting person than Jordan Peterson, I will say.
Sounds like it. I'll give you that.
Oh, one final thing, one big thing that I think Peterson's known for is this idea of enforced monogamy.
Oh,
you
yes. Yeah.
And the best part about it is how he constantly denies that this vision of the future would require the government to do the enforcing.
Right.
It's like, no, wouldn't be that.
No, that would be
like,
bad.
What would it possibly be then?
It would be
who's enforcing this insane idea that we have to buy every incel a walking vagina receptacle? His words, not mine. But I guess moving on beyond Jordan Peterson's obsession with children's characters, I found a pretty good article the other day. It's a bit long, so I'm just going to try to summarize it the best I can. It's basically, it's called Too Little Too Late on American Media Executives' Hypocritical Support of Palestinian Journalists, written by badass name of the month, Stephen W. Thrasher. It's a good name. The sub-headline here, quote, "Is collaborating with the soldiers killing our Palestinian colleagues a good way to be in solidarity with them?" And so he basically goes on to detail how a lot of major news publications are now finally making the small gesture to sign this open letter expressing solidarity with people in Palestine who are working as journalists, I guess specifically Palestinian journalists, considering how, like, at an unprecedented speed in which journalists have been killed in Gaza, and not as like collateral damage, but like oftentimes in these situations it's been shown to be like very like specifically targeting not just the journalists themselves, but their whole families. It reminds me of I don't know, what movie is that from? Some mob movie. I want him dead. I want his whole family dead. I want his house burned to the ground. It's a sample.
Sorry, I know the sample. I've heard it. I don't know. I don't know the movie.
It's in Death Around the Corner, the Tupac song.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't know the movie either, but it's kind of like that, just relentless hunting down of journalists and their significant others and children. Very cool, very sane, not violating any sort of rules of warfare.
Yeah, we all support it and like it.
But then this article basically goes on to say kind of what I was trying to say, I think, on maybe the last episode or the episode before that about the New York Times basically finally admitting after 2 years that like maybe the conflict in Ukraine isn't as cut and dried as we thought it was. Maybe we shouldn't have used the word unprovoked every single time we talked about it. And yeah, too little, too late is exactly the phrase I would think of there. And also, this kind of like backpedaling away from their egregious misreporting on the mass rapes story that now is like undeniably was wrong. Yeah, he goes on to he goes through like and it's not just like sort of low level reporters, it's like people at the top of the food chains of these like major publications like the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, CNN, the AP, and just basically shows how often they've contradicted what they're just trying to join. They're trying to kind of like join the party before it's too late of like trying to be on the right side of history. But at the same time, they're still like doing witch hunts within their own offices, trying to punish the people that leaked like the information, say, about that totally botched like mass rapes investigative story that they published. So maybe this was just easier to sum up than I thought, to be honest, but it's worth reading. I'm definitely not going to like go through and read all of it on the podcast.
Sure.
Maybe I'll jump down to what I think he says is like the worst example of these people. Yeah, okay. So it says here, on March 6th, Max Blumenthal published a fascinating account of how Israeli lobbyists are urging U.S. officials to justify war on Gaza with, quote, Hamas rape claims, complete with leaked slides from a presentation. I saw those slides. They're like, it's just basically like the slides just might as well just say, lie, 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 lie no matter what.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
long as we can get to this headline.
Right.
Rationalizing Israel's increasingly unpopular genocide is reliant upon a campaign to whip up fear of allegedly rapacious Arab men, and nothing has been more central to that claim than the Times December 28th story Screams Without Words, How Hamas Weaponized Sexual Violence on October 7th. The problem is that Screams Without Words has collapsed thoroughly and repeatedly debunked by Electronic Intifada, Mondoweiss, Z-Squirrel. Oh, I think I follow them. I thought they were just a person. I didn't know they were...
A Z-Squirrel?
Anyway, yeah.
Z-Squirrel is just a person, or it's just an account. It's not...
Okay.
It's just a somewhat popular account on Twitter. It's not like a...
Yeah, and I did see them. I thought that they were just like kind of echoing what these other things were. Anyway, whatever. And The Intercept and us, referring to, I guess...
This podcast?
This is on lithub.com.
Oh, I thought maybe you meant us, like the podcast we're recording it too. Here on.
Right. No, still reading the article here. But now, as Times employees are blowing the whistle that they do not stand behind the story of systematic mass rape, especially at their flagship podcast, The Daily, the internal fights over this incredibly high-stakes story are spilling into more mainstream publications like Vanity Fair and NPR. I would also say it's funny that he first writes here, Max Blumenthal published this interesting stuff, but then doesn't mention that the Gray Zone was one of the first places to thoroughly debunk the story, but whatever. And what the management of the Times, a publication which, like most breaking news publication, rely upon truth-seeking whistleblowers for many of its most important stories, what are they doing? As people inside and outside the Gray Lady register an understandable alarm about its poor sourcing and relying upon a journalism neophyte, an Israeli military veteran, to write screams without words, Times management is not bringing back the role of the public editor, nor are they engaging in any transparent good faith accounting of self-reflection. Rather, they are trying to hunt out who among their staff is leaking so they can punish them, and they appear to be using racial profiling to do so. And yeah, he goes on to explain that further. They were basically the Times like internal sort of investigation was targeting the Middle Eastern and North African reporters at the New York Times, people covering those regions. And then that's who the Times wanted to talk to, even though some of the employees interrogated had no connection to the production of the daily episode, except for the fact that they raised concerns to standards about the original reporting. And here he's talking about, I think, just the owner of the New York Times, someone named Sulzberger. How can Sulzberger write in good conscience that he cares about the quote, journalists and media workers in Gaza who have been working in unprecedented conditions when his paper is racially profiling Arab and North African Times employees who may or may not have leaked, as Daniel Ellsberg once leaked the Pentagon Papers to the Times, but if any of them had, would have been as justified in trying to stop the colonial war crimes in Palestine as Ellsberg was justified in trying to stop the colonial war crimes in Vietnam. Sulzberger can't do this in good conscience. Neither he nor his colleagues, Julia Pace, Mark Thompson, and Terry Tang at the AP, CNN, or Los Angeles Times, respectively, can undo any harm their publications may have done over the previous months, years, or even decades, which has helped usher into being the relentless hellscape in Gaza. But at the very least, they could stop publishing propaganda and laundering lies which kill Palestinian journalists. And they could stop punishing their own employees for simply doing what journalists are supposed to do. I want to go to the middle of the night. I want to piss on his eggs. And that's how the article ends. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I read this article, it just felt kind of like validating in a way, and like he sums up. Actually, I said it's a little bit of a long article. It's not even super long comparatively, but long for going through on the podcast completely.
Kind of. It's not. I mean, didn't feel like it.
I think it sums up well, like just this whole phenomenon of two-faced fucking liars who have done a lot of damage. It's not just like, oh, it's just the press. It's like, I mean, the press still has a huge amount of influence. Like even if like you and I might not give a shit what the New York Times or whatever major publication has to say, or we'll read it more critically, millions of other people are not. And it's just like, well, if the New York Times said it, it's gospel. Right.
I don't know. I agree with the sentiment in a way, but I also I guess as I was first going through it, I had a gut reaction of kind of thinking about it maybe in the context of don't gatekeep or whatever. Or not don't gatekeep, but you know what I mean? Like, don't let people change their minds. But right. As we're talking about it now, though, or thinking about it more, I'm kind of like, okay, but this is not the same when you're talking about an institution. And he says that at the beginning of the article. True. Exactly what you're saying. Yeah, but even still, I'm kind of like, do we want to leave room for people, even if it is a major institution, for them to change their position? Do we want to? I don't know. I guess there's room for everything, right? And you can say yes, you support that they have the right opinion now, but still kind of, I guess, chastise them for not having it to begin with, when it's not as if really there's anything new. Like, there isn't any reason why they shouldn't have already known, like, the correct stance on this stuff. But yeah, I had like a gut reaction where I was like, you gotta, like, it's a positive, like, even if it's a move in the right direction, you know? And like, it's kind of tough for me because I'm kind of like, well, isn't it, like, I know there's no such thing as like too little too late in this, because, like, you know, there's still time, right? There's still like room for like the future or whatever.
I think I know I agree with what you're saying, and I think Mr. Thrasher does as well, because I mean he says as much. Like, I mean, I'll just say, he says, this is the very beginning of the article. When it comes to righteous causes, I generally believe it is important to leave space for people to have an on-ramp to join at any time. If someone has not been actively supporting campaigns against racism, transphobia, or injustice of various kinds, I do not want stigma or shame to keep any individual from joining the cause. The best response, blah, 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 is to say welcome aboard. However, I do not extend the same grace to welcoming people nor institutions in positions of enormous power, especially when they are still, this is the important part, I think, still causing and benefiting from the unjust conditions people with less power than they wield are organizing against. So that's why, like, then throughout the rest of the article, he's saying, like, these people are signing this, like, gesture, this sort of, like, technical gesture that, like, then they can point to like, placate people who don't know any better. Be like, look, we're all for, you know. And the thing is like, it's not even like they're going as far to like publicly call for a ceasefire or to even call out Israel for like human rights abuses. They're just saying, we are in solidarity with these people with these journalists specifically who keep getting killed in Gaza. Yes, technically that's from zero to that. Yes, that is progress. But I also really believe in the point he's making of like, this isn't a genuine like change of heart. This is just a cynical, I mean, it's almost literally the very least they could do is like sign their name on a fucking petition, basically.
Sure, but again, like, do we not?
And also they're looking for a big pat on the back. Like if the fucking owner of the New York Times came out and was like, we made a grave error in like, and even then I would be like, no, you didn't make an error. You're like pushing for a specific narrative. But even if they just said, we made a huge mistake in hiring an Israeli intelligence officer who's never done journalism in their life to write one of the most important articles that we've written in the last year or so, and it turned out to reveal nothing that we kept claiming was the case without any evidence for months. Like when you're trying to vilify, you know, the enemy as all being like rapist animals, which is what they were doing like every day. I think you can say it's progress, but it's not enough to stop the criticism. Like they want people to stop criticizing them. Like these various newspapers, like, give us a break, man. Didn't you see we signed the thing? I even put a Palestinian flag in my handle. Isn't it enough for you guys? Like,
yeah. No, you're right.
That's the way I see it.
Sure, of course.
But that's kind of what I liked about the article, is that he did kick it off with that idea of like, we shouldn't just eternally, like, people should leave room for people to like have it, you know, see the light or whatever, or, you know, admit their mistakes and like come around to like a better position. I totally agree with that. It's just a lot of the times when people have these kind of like, even a lot of the public apologies that like people make are like very, you know, insincere and don't actually affect their behavior and stuff. So I couldn't give you an exact example at this very second, but I would bet my life that there have been articles published in the New York Times since they signed this open letter that are still just like misleading the public in a dangerous way, that's in some indirect way getting more people fucking killed, maimed, etc. But
yeah, I just yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I do, I guess, believe what you're saying, like the idea that for sure they're misleading people, right? But if we don't have like concrete proof or like evidence or whatever to back it up, like in the moment, like it is kind of like, again, like I said, isn't it like a plus? Even if they are doing it for craven ways, even if they are asking for a pat on the back, even if all of that is true, like that, it even just putting out the correct opinion is like a positive. You know what I mean?
Okay, it is, but what I'm saying is then if we factor in positives, we have to factor in the negatives, right? And
okay.
I think there's like a mountain of negatives dwarfing that positive, so it doesn't.
I guess again, like I'm just saying, I don't know. Like we have evidence. We just take it at face value. We have evidence from the article that like they've shifted where they're coming from on something like towards the right way, but we don't have the counter evidence of like the negative, like that they are misleading or say, you know what I mean?
I mean,
do we?
give me 30 minutes.
I guess you don't need to. You're probably right, and it is true. So yes, like, yeah, it's.
I mean, I'm basing this on my experience.
Right,
I'm saying
right.
I couldn't cite chapter and verse right now off the top of my head, but like I'm seeing these things every day.
True.
Every day that I go online, like every headline that like uses the passive voice when Israel drops all of that kind of shit. But like even if you just look at like, because the thing is that they're signing that petition, or not even petition, whatever, open letter. They're not outright saying we really fucked up with this big article that we published that was hugely influential on all these fucking liberals and conservatives alike, who then they retweet it, other news agencies run with it, and then it's just this huge, this spreads around so quickly to the point where like every person with like an ideological bone to pick is just stating as a matter of fact, well, at least the IDF doesn't rape people until their hip bones break.
Right.
At least they're not cutting off the breasts of people and the heads of children and all this shit. All this shit that the New York Times was publishing mindlessly. Not even mindlessly. Like, I would almost argue they're publishing it knowing that it's they know it's not confirmed, but they're just saying it.
Right.
And that shit is a million times more dangerous in a way that outweighs like, hey, our president signed a piece of paper that almost no one's even going to see that says, we stand with our fellow journalists in Palestine. Because that's all this was about. It wasn't about like admitting being wrong and like, oh, we'll stop just like publishing the direct words of the IDF as if they are confirmed independently, even though they're not. Like, if they were out there saying that kind of shit, I'd be like, yeah, fucking applause. Like, great. Like, I'm still pissed that you did it wrong before, but this is actually like a step towards like, I don't know, redemption or something. But I think they're just not even close to that.
Fair. Again,
I agree. I agree with like, admitting where there's a win. I just don't think it's much of one.
Sure. Right.
It's a very, very small one. And in comparison to everything else, I don't know. What I'm saying is them signing this thing that's good.
Right.
It's not going to stop me, and it shouldn't stop anyone else from calling them out for all the bullshit they're going to keep doing and have kept doing.
Yeah.
And have done in the past and not tried to like fix after the fact.
That's fair. Yeah. I think, yeah, my point is more like, who cares about finger wagging at them if the message gets to the right person? You know what I'm saying? But if there's like, so many other negatives that are coming that like probably the person that would get the right idea from them is not going to, because they're going to be inundated with a bunch of, as you said, like pointing out like misinformation and things that are pointing them in the wrong direction. So, yeah.
I just did a quick New York Times plus rape search on their website, and just a week ago they published an article called "The New Rape Denialism: How Quickly the Far Left Pivots from, quote, believe women to believe Hamas when the identity of the victim changes." You can imagine where that's headed.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't think about how this other thing I have on the list is gonna segue from what I just said to what the next thing is.
Okay.
But we can I think we can quickly talk about this. It's more, let's try to end on a more lighthearted note where we can poke fun at AI scam artists, basically. Have you heard about this Willy Wonka experience disaster?
Yeah, I heard, stuff here and there. It feels like it was a little bit ago, like a week or two
was
ago.
It?
Yeah, I feel like it was like kind of all over the internet. But maybe that just feels longer ago than it was. But either way.
Well, also, just to get it on the record here at the paper of record, just concerning AI, MAGA uses AI to invent pictures of Trump with black people. Quote, "I'm not claiming it's accurate,"
Yeah.
says the guy who started pushing these pictures. The pictures themselves are so funny. Of course, like, people got extra fingers on their hands. Sure. But yeah, it's just Trump like being surrounded by black folks. And it's kind of like the person who started generating these images, like, who's their audience for this? Like, what?
Yeah, right. I don't...
there are some non-whites who really like Trump, but I guess they are a minority within a minority, so to speak. But yeah, I think maybe what this one article is suggesting is that they're leaping on the fact that Biden's losing support from black and Latino adults, as it says here. So they're like, oh, if he's losing their support, it's a prime opportunity to AI Trump into a picture with them to gain their support.
Yeah,
well thought out.
That makes sense and will work.
So there's this the headline I think that caught my eye about this. You're right. This was like maybe 2 weeks ago or something now. But
right.
The Wonka experience disaster was AI's Firefest. Firefest was something I was pretty interested in. I liked those documentaries. They were fun to watch. Did you give a shit about that when that?
I didn't watch any of the documentaries, but I remember when it was happening, and I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I kind of I didn't really understand it when all I was seeing was like pictures of people with like a styrofoam plate with like really nasty looking lunch on it. But yeah, the documentaries, I think there's two at least. They're both worth watching for sure.
Sure.
But anyway, basically these people who are like just using really cheap AI and they're trying to like cash in, they created this event. This was to be for like a family friendly event, like aimed at kids, and I guess maybe like pairing it alongside the new Wonka movie coming out, and it just turned out to be like this absolute disaster in sort of in the style of Firefest being a disaster. Another funny thing I learned about from this article is that this same fucking con man who did Firefest and went to jail over it is starting a Firefest 2. He's already selling pre-sale tickets despite not having announced a lineup of musicians, a date, or even a location.
Nice. Oh.
It'd be so funny if like he just does an exact repeat and like thousands of the same idiots get fooled again.
Yeah, by the same guy is pretty good.
But this Wonka thing, one of the headlines I read was like, it looked like a meth lab, which I believe was like a quote from one of the parents. There's apparently a bunch of videos of kids just crying because of how terrible this thing was. And you can see some of the pictures. It's like basically looks like it's in like a gray, dank, like warehouse. And then there's like a couple of colorful little gizmos and statues placed around. It's quite bleak. But then they also used the AI part comes in, I guess, where like they generated like a script for like, because I guess they didn't want to get sued. So this kept being referred to as Willy Wonka disaster, Willy Wonka immersive event, leaves kids in tears. Quote, it looks like a meth lab. But the script here, Gizmodo got their hands on the whole AI script, which I did not take the time to look through all of, but I guess it's okay. Setting: Wonky Doodles at McDuff's Chocolate Factory. A script. Willie McDuff. Introduction and audience interaction before entering the Garden of Enchantment. So this is all written by AI. Yeah, it just looks pretty cheap. Yeah, I don't know. It does appear AI written. I mean, what I've seen of it so far, none of it is actually too excitingly bad. But I can totally see how kids would start crying if they had any sense of what the magic of the Wonka tale and other movies are supposed to impart, and then you show up to this like abandoned like Jigsaw's dungeon that has a couple of giant lollipop statues around. Oh, one of the other details I saw somewhere was like the employees at this place were instructed to give the kids at the end of it like a handful of jelly beans and a soda or something. But I'm just imagining just like sweaty, like 5 sweaty jelly beans.
Right.
like have a wonktastic day, kids.
Yeah.
They're like in hysterics.
Just a cup of
dragged out by their angry parents.
A cup of flat soda out of a 2-liter bottle.
Right. It's Faygo, maybe. Maybe that's too good.
Yeah, right. They don't have that in England.
One of the hilariously named like Dr. Pepper generic brands. Oh, the other thing was that the parents called the police on this place.
Oh, okay, good.
So cops busted in. Police called after AI-generated Willy Wonka experience, in quotations, is a sad mess in real life. Yes, we were told to hand the kids a couple of jelly beans and a quarter cup of lemonade at the end.
Okay, so it was just about as bad as I said.
I guess the big takeaway here is that, I don't know, is AI making it possibly easier to scam people? I guess just the internet in general. But then when if you just throw in like the 2 letters AI, like it makes it all the easier maybe. Because like, yeah, they were just like showing these like AI generated like graphic images, I guess. That was like the promotional images. And then, yeah, contrast that with the gray, sad reality of this thing.
Right.
Anyway, this is not one of those obviously like terrible scams. This is not Microsoft like draining a fucking lake of its water to keep its AI servers running, which was another AI based story I saw earlier today, or earlier in the week. But yeah, Elmo, Wonka, these are the real villains we must string up in the town square. Man, there's so many. Meth Lab Oompa Loompa is selling cameo videos now.
Oh, okay. That's... Oh, okay.
This one looks...
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, this one looks just almost more sad than anything.
Sure.
Possibly. I went down a rabbit hole of like, you sent me that one guy that the crackhead.
Oh, yes.
The
guy, yeah.
Forgot what his deal was, but
I know that he's the real Jews. Yeah.
Yeah, it led me down a rabbit hole of there was another person whose name I forget, who's like very much just a very like someone who's just like permanently lost their mind from using lots of meth, apparently.
Right.
And anyway, the whole thing though just got me thinking about like certain differences in the internet age, as it were, as to before. It's like now these like raving street people can like have their own YouTube channels,
right?
Which is
so much better than it used to be.
Yeah, so much better.
Yeah, they have a community.
I mean, I did look at the one woman's, and like I was sort of expecting there to be just a lot of like mean-spirited comments, because I mean she's saying obviously insane shit, like, but it was like really made no sense. But like the titles of her videos were like I let dogs butt fuck my son to death or something like that.
I don't support that for sure.
Yeah, but then I clicked on it, and like,
and she did.
It's just her. It's her like with having that, like holding her phone or whatever at the most strange angle on herself. Her like teeth have fallen out. She's just like laughing like a lunatic, and just words. It's just a stream of words that don't mean anything. So I was like, oh, this is just a sad person. This is just sad. But yeah, I don't know. There's no bigger point that I have.
Like I said, it's a
than
positive.
It exists.
It's a positive though. That person would just be doing the same thing without being on the internet before. So at least now maybe they got a community. They got people, like you said, in the comments that are being nice. It's not.
Yeah, the people in the comments were actually saying that like they're like, did her sister ever find her? Like, 'cause like their family members are like finding them through that. So yeah, I mean, put one in the win column for everybody and their mothers being a YouTube personality now. So maybe some schizophrenics will get the help they need thanks to the charitable nonprofit known as YouTube/Google.
Perfect.
But on that note,
yeah,
it feels like we should be winding down here. I've got some enthusiastic recs.
Okay.
Do you have any?
I got one. I got a new one. This came up. My mother-in-law mentioned it, and now it's become part of the staple in the rotation. Just taking frozen dumplings from the grocery store and making a soup with the frozen dumpling in it. That's good dinner. I put a bunch of different vegetables in it, dumplings, broth, different veggies, cabbage, all kinds of, and it's easy, it's fast, and like I said, it's become, now we're getting out of winter months. It's not going to be as prudent, but maybe you're on the southern hemisphere and it's just going to start getting cold. Maybe it's time, but or maybe you just save it up for next fall. But yeah, frozen dumplings. It just makes a decent dinner. It's easy, like I said. I highly recommend it.
Nice. And then maybe you can like up your game to the high end difficulty dumplings, the soup dumplings. If you can learn to make soup dumplings, like I was just gonna say,
you got it. Okay, so I know
something very dumb.
Okay, from what I know, the trick is you gotta have a gelatinous broth.
That's right. And
it liquefies.
Or like maybe frozen even.
The thing I saw was gelatinous, right? So it's just, and then like when it steams, it turns back to liquid. Anyway, that's my Rick.
Nice. I'm also a fan of the dumpling. Actually, just I was telling you, I went out to dinner last night with some people, and one of the people I discovered speaks fluent Mandarin, which I didn't know, even though I've known them for a little while. And we were at a Chinese restaurant eating some lamb. I know it's bad, baby sheep, but boy, was it yummy. But anyway, she told me that like the word in Chinese for like dumpling originally means like head, like a human's head. Okay. And that basically, apparently the invention of the food was like, there were these like sort of like intellectual, like, I don't know, like smart, like nice, smart people that were like in the path of some like warring, conquering group. And the warring, conquering group, instead of beheading these people, they made dumplings instead. And so like the word matches up. I thought that was kind of interesting. So like dumplings have began their career as saving lives from being violently taken. This sounds like it could also possibly be just a myth, a nice story, but
it could be.
I don't know.
That's
the fact that she studied Mandarin for however many years makes me think she knows what she's talking about.
Right. You want to believe. based on that. Let's say I like to pick this one up recently. The term apocryphal, right? So it might be apocryphal. Sounds better than just saying bullshit. Anyways.
Yeah, apocryphal is a nice fancified word. I will recommend a movie that no one has heard about, especially in the last few days, called Poor Things by Greek director Yorgos Lanthimos.
And I'm always saying, why do you gotta lanth the most? You could just lanth some. It's not a competition. Anyways.
Lanth the least. Take a day off.
Again, it's not a competition. You don't have to the least or the most, just a moderate amount. Don't.
Competition to do the least. Fair enough. Who I've liked for a while. I liked him before he was cool, is what I'm trying to say. When he was still making movies in Greece. His really good older movie he did called Dogtooth, which I strongly recommend as well, but I probably have recommended that on the show already before. But anyway, this is his most recent movie. It got attention from the Academy. Emma Stone somehow controversially was awarded Best Actress in this movie. She is very good in it. Everyone's very good in it. I had a great time watching it in the movie theater with a big group of people who I could sense were uncomfortable through a lot of it, but maybe in a good way, if that makes any sense. But there was like all this to do about I try not to know too much about movies before I go see them, especially if they're like by people I like already. But like one of the only things I had heard about the movie beforehand was like that there were a bunch of sex scenes, like daring, graphic sex scenes, and it's pretty overblown. Like sometimes people are real prudes, and it's not the purpose of the movie at all. But since this movie has already been talked about a lot, I'm not even going to really say much else about it other than a woman is brought back to life somehow, and the details in which she's brought back to life are the part that's much more shocking and interesting and strange. And then she goes on kind of a journey of self-discovery, but it's done in a very non-traditional way. I'll say one thing I liked about it was this use of like everything was just seemed to be filmed on sets, but with like matte painting like backgrounds, which is like, an old style technique of movie making that hardly ever gets used nowadays. But I found it to be effective and enjoyable, kind of charming. And as much as it sounds like it could be like a really dark, fucked up movie, it's mostly really funny. I was laughing out loud a lot, which is somewhat rare for me in the theater, especially. So yeah, check out Poor Things. Try to not think about all the stupid shit that gets attached to movies when they win awards, if you can.
Yeah, it's on Hulu now,
and
also, so just watch it on Hulu.
Nice. I liked it so much that the day after I saw it at the theater, I went out and found myself a copy as well. Let's say I found it on Hulu. And then I also watched another movie a little bit before that, which I went into thinking it was a documentary for some reason. And so like for the first 5 minutes or so, I was like, this is the weirdest documentary I've ever seen because it just seems like a movie. How can this possibly be a documentary? Is this a reenactment? And then then I finally realized, it's a fictional film all the way through. But Anatomy of a Fall, also an Oscar winner. I guess it's a French film, but a lot of it is in English as well for reasons that you'll see if you see the movie. It's basically about a family and the father dies in a way that could either be that he committed suicide or possibly his wife killed him. And then it becomes kind of a courtroom drama done in all the right ways that a courtroom drama can be done in, I would say. One thing I found just interesting about it, since it's not an American film, is I had never even really thought about how a courtroom is set up in other countries. The way they do it in France, apparently the prosecutor wears a black frilly kind of robe, and then the defense does, and the prosecutor wears like a red frilly robe when they're like questioning somebody on the stand, so to speak. And I don't know, it's just very different from like all the tropes of like an American like courtroom, fictionalized courtroom thing. So that I found interesting.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of people talking about this movie, and like that the courtroom is just, or the court setup is just so different that it's kind of weird.
Yeah, the witness, like the witness stand is not like in the front, like where like an audience would see them. They actually are like standing at a podium, like facing the judge. So it's all backwards and European, man.
Wrong.
Why can't they do it like us?
Yeah, they should do it the right way. What are they thinking?
You know, I bet they don't even make them put their hand on a religious book and swear to the God in heaven.
This is true. Yeah, I bet
that they'll tell the truth. They probably just put their hand on a fucking baguette while lighting up a cigarette. It's just, it ain't right. But yeah, that was a good movie as well. So. All right, I'm just gonna keep recording from here, and I'll line it up after the fact.
Okay.
So
I mean, you were just gonna close it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Goodbye times. Go to the website heatdeathpod.com. More importantly, go to our Discord, which even more importantly is in the episode description, along with all the other links to various other things. Things like Tim's other stuff. What do you do, Tim?
I do a podcast on Violent People podcast or website, so check that out, violentpeople.co. And yeah, follow me on Twitter at ROHDutch. That's it.
All right, sounds good. And always, as always, even, Hamas will never win over the righteous keepers of the West. Up yours, scum. And then with a great first response to this in the Red Scare subreddit being, wow, this dude is such a homo.
Jesus. All right, I'm gonna stop recording.
Yeah.
You saw me standing alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own. Blue moon, you knew just what I was there for. You heard me saying a prayer for someone I really could care for. Then suddenly appeared a face my arms could ever hold. I heard somebody whisper, please adore Now I'm no longer alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own. suddenly appeared a face before me. The only one my arms could ever hold. I heard somebody whisper, please. And when I looked, the moon had turned to
The first voice recording was made in 1860. It was a 10-second fragment of the French folk song Au clair de la lune recorded by inventor Edward Leon Scott de Martinville. But who will make the final voice recording and when? What will it be? Who will hear it?